Hello and welcome to the Not My Job Pod. I am your host, Emily Gant, and today I am joined by the wonderful co-founders of Felt Room, Marius and Rob. So thank you so much for being here. I am so excited. However, I did just ask, how would you like to be introduced? And then we started a quite interesting conversation about whether or not you want to be called co-founders or who is the founder or who came up with the idea. So who is the brains behind Felt Room?
Well, we're definitely two halves of one brain.
Okay.
That's for sure.
Sharing a brain cell.
Yeah, I guess so. So I started performing concerts in this space around 5 years ago, and in 2024 there's a well-known day in piano circles called World Piano Day. It's at the end of March, and I decided to publicly advertise the concert to see what would happen. That went really well, and I then ran 3 or 4 of those concerts throughout 24. And then when Piano Day 25 was on the horizon, Marius and I started to talk about Felt Room, basically. That's the very short story. Marius and I have been friends for years, and is a former student of mine. And I've also worked with him on various musical projects, including his solo artist project, Werani. Felt Room came very naturally through our friendships, I would say.
Yeah, it fairly organically
Mm-hmm.
evolving. But when we talked more about, when we met about this idea of what Felt Room could be, and at that time, I think Rob had the idea of naming it Felt Room, which was very appealing.
Yeah.
Because you were also to a concert, and I think you could feel the atmosphere.
Mm-hmm.
And then the other meaning of the name is the sound is created by the fabric that is put into the piano, which is the felt upright piano. And that started in this year, really as Felt Room in March this year.
And then the other half of that meaning is deeply felt, to feel things together, have this experience together. And then, when I think about a Felt Room, I think about, cozy room lined with lots of this soft, cozy fabric, so which is kind of very welcoming. And so
Yeah,
the name is really kind of multifaceted, I guess.
definitely. And I think like the space as well is just like it is cozy. Like that is the first word that comes to my mind. And this is, I guess, my first time seeing it. I've been to 2 concerts here now. And it's my first time seeing it in the daytime and like it's still cozy, but at night it's like a special kind of it's so like full inside and everyone's ready for, I don't know. Yeah, just something that feels really, really special. So
Yeah. And actually you also see that, now it's winter time while we're recording, but when we have concerts in the summer, we also have daylight with the first set. So the first artist that plays, you see from the outside, the light fades a little bit and dims. And then the second artist is it's like a night set. Yeah. And it's nice to see how the room changes because of its transparency, because we're located in Friedrichshain here, but it's an old shop entrance or shop space. And we actually can use this day-night and natural light very nicely in our concert.
do you get a lot of people like coming in and like, yeah, just like looking in the window, like, what are you doing in here?
In fact, one of the things reason that we're laughing, that there was a lot of in-jokes about this, but we have our QR code planted on the window.
Yeah.
So if someone is walking past the space and sees a nice concert going inside, they can quickly join our WhatsApp groups or Instagram groups. But then I guess I'll share it in joke because it's, I hope it's funny, that we were just joking that QR codes could like appear on everything, so they'd appear online, business cards, and, so this whole QR phenomenon was kind of central to the as it felt very silly.
So now you're like, I just gotta make a QR code go viral and then we're full. Yeah. Nice. So I'm curious though, so like when you guys actually met and yeah, you just kind of had a shared passion for music, do you guys both because you're both musicians in your own right, so do you have different styles or what's kind of the
I would say it's completely different. When you would observe it from the outside, you would maybe could jump to a conclusion, why are those two guys, Rob and Marius, teaming up together from a musical side?
That's true.
Okay.
But when you have a closer look, it, I think, makes completely sense. It's very like fruitful for Felt Room speaking. And speaking about my own musical project, which is electronic indie pop, aiming for handcrafted sounds, which when you look at Feldroom again, there's a lot of, it's pure piano. Yeah, no like artificial things, no electronics mostly around it. So what I see in my own production is then, okay, when I see a lot of artists playing here, it has a big influence in my production. Maybe not yet at that point where I truly can manifest it as I want it, but there are some big transfers happening. How to listen to music, how to write it, and how to, let's say, value a piano melody or melody that is played on the piano, which big impact it can have on a electronic indie pop track. While you can also feel what impact a melody can have in a room when people sit. So there are big overlaps for me, which I actually never talked about it. But
Yeah. Well, when you were describing that, Marius and I are often sat at opposite sides of the room during a performance. So we have a lot of guest artists playing. And Marius's job is the hospitality part, but we also make the content. So one of us is usually shooting with the gimbal, another is making some kind of audience shots. But then oftentimes I'm looking at Marius and I could see that he's getting like really into the music very deeply, and I could see a lot happening in him that's kind of affecting, that's kind of influencing him musically speaking, which is really good to see.
I can also see that when Rob is sitting next to the piano at a concert, I'm observing like the audience and filming from behind how he observes guest artists and is also fascinated. You can see
Of
course by each artist who's playing there, because every set is differently. And we also always talk about how the artists played and how you could tweak your sound and why it was so special that night and how was another night in a different way. I think that's always fun to do.
I think for me, that was the first concert that I came to here. That was one of the really interesting parts. Was the whole front row actually was, I don't know if it was coincidental or I think you did know them, but they were obviously people who play piano. And so like I'm watching them because I'm not very musical. And so I was watching them watch the pianist, and I think that was the Vivian Roost show. And yeah, it was so interesting to like, yeah, observe somebody else observing from like a completely different context. So yeah, seeing that process.
Yeah, that's actually one thing I really like about the Filter project, is that it's, of course, it's by musicians and it's for musicians to an extent, but we're welcoming everybody, obviously. And there are so many non-musicians who come in, or people who are just like music fans, but are not particularly involved in music in any way, but they still have these kind of deep and meaningful experiences here, which is really nice to see. And we always seem to get good feedback from non-musicians.
Yeah, I think for me, especially as someone who has no idea, I took piano lessons for like 2 years as a kid. I could not, if you told me I will give you €1,000,000 to tell me where the C is, I couldn't do it. And so, yeah, I'm terrible, but I still just like really enjoyed the, yeah. Okay. Okay. Before we leave today, that's what I'll leave. That'll be my knowledge nugget. But yeah, I think that's what got me about the space though, is like you come in and it's like, I don't know, it almost feels meditative. And so I feel like when I was just sitting here and you kind of like hear this, like the sound quality is amazing. And then the music quality like washes over you. And then, yeah, you kind of go into this, I went into like kind of a meditative trance almost. And it was just really, really cool. And yeah, you had some people who were here by themselves, some people who were here like on obvious like date nights, some people who are very into music. You can tell because they have questions for the pianist afterwards. And it was just like, it's a really cool mix. So I guess when you guys were planning and even designing the space, which is beautiful in itself, like what kind of thought process went into, this is the space we want to curate? How did you make that happen?
Well, when I fit this space out originally, it was very minimalistic. It was just the pianos. There used to be bookcases in here as well, with all my various books, music books, and also just my reading books. But when we made the shift to the venue, I moved the bookcases out, and then the absorbers appeared. And really, it's super minimal. And then the lights, I don't know if you can see them on the camera, but the lights came at a later date, and they definitely were the finishing touch, and act as kind of stage lights as well. We can dim them and create the atmosphere. And then, yeah, we always had a want to really tried to tap into the atmospheric. And so we were always favoring, soft lights, oranges, and, this kind of emberish atmosphere, like being in a campfire, being in the living room, being beside a campfire, being in the living room. Yeah, so I guess that was our...
To add on this, you asked for a plan, but when we started, there was no plan.
Okay.
Because we said we are curious and let's try it out. To open what Rob said at the beginning, it worked for him to host own concerts like every couple of months, and then open it up for other artists and be this platform that we are kind of now for other artists. But I think the reason why when you said you came in and people feel this meditative sensation, it has to do because it was grown organically. It's not like artificial place set up like a pop-up somewhere.
Yeah.
And then now these are concerts. It was all like growing over the weeks, and we tweaked here, like put the lamps on. The absorbers came in, which are also handmade, made them with my dad.
Oh, wow.
So those are like pieces that come together, but it's not like you cannot start a project like this and say, okay, in 5 weeks, we need this to-do list. And I think you can feel it in the space that it's organically growing and it will also grow over time. But there's not let's say a master plan when we started behind that.
But I guess when the two of you met and you have different musical styles, but then, I don't know, stylistically in here, like, would you say this space is similar to like your home, or do you guys have similar taste in that way?
Yeah. Marius is definitely a minimalist in his apartment. My partner is really into furniture.
Okay.
So she's kind of decorated in fact, the chairs that we're sitting in now, they're
Very nice.
part of the addition of the absorbers was a great moment because it also helps us to kind of enclose the stage area. Because without that, there's just a roof. But I always thought that the absorbers would act to improve the sound, but also that it would kind of create a stage area for the artist, which it has done. And then what I should also mention about the absorbers is that this lovely beige fabric. We actually did some photography of this, and we used it for the backgrounds of our Instagram posts. So in the first season anyway, we actually used this as kind of the background. So you'd have this almost tactile Instagram post that you could reach out and touch and feel.
Yeah.
Again, playing on the felt motif.
Definitely. No, I like that history of it, kind of happened over time, and the fact that you built it yourself as well. And I don't know, it's very, I think Berlin, something I love about Berlin just in general is that like there's these spaces where everything kind of comes together slowly over time. And I don't know, I guess I worry that there's fewer and fewer of those spaces as time goes on. And so like protecting whether it's small businesses or large businesses that just kind of have like, their own character is really something that I find to be really important. Do you have any other, I guess, spaces in Berlin that either you thought of when you were like, I want my own, or that you just really enjoy?
When I first arrived in Berlin, this was also 2014, and did a little stint in 2014. There's a space in Wedding called the Christofori Piano Salon.
Okay. Is it still there?
It is still there. But they actually moved the premises. They moved like a couple of blocks down.
Okay.
In Wedding. And that was really where the concept of doing these kind of private concerts came from, or semi-private, which was, they would take donations, and there would be drinks, and there was this informality, but they were presenting classical music, and they've become tremendously successful. I think they're doing 50 concerts a year.
Wow.
Really good. But that kind of informality, I suppose that's a big Berlin thing as well. Really inspired me to develop Veltrum in this way. I think it's also important that we talk a bit about musical philosophy. As Marius mentioned, the atmosphere of the room was kind of primary when we were figuring it out. But if we just take a couple of steps back to rewind, I'm a classical pianist. It's the connection with Christopher as well. My first album, Glimmers, it was recording on a grand piano, and it's very big, it's very dramatic. Some of the pieces are very long, and it's super emotional, and passionate. I was kind of aware of the felt genre, but I was a bit resistant to that coming from this classical background. But then after, I really can't remember, I can't pinpoint exactly why or when I decided to do it, but I kind of caved and decided that I wanted to make a record on felts.
And when, to interrupt for those who are not musical, the felt itself, does it actually make the sound quieter or it just changes the sound? What is the felt? Where does it go and what does it do?
Okay, well, the felts, it kind of does both, to answer your question. So the felts, they're attached to a rail usually.
Mm-hmm.
Some pianos have this practice pedal built in, which means that, you push the middle pedal down and lock it to one side, then your little felt rail is going to go down.
Mm-hmm.
And then you've got this very reduced sound to practice so you don't drive your neighbors crazy. But the felt genre, which you could say was pioneered by people like Niels Fram, Alfred Arnolds, they use a much thinner felt because then you get somewhat suppressed sounds, reduced sound, but you still have a lot of dynamics, a lot of definition. And so there's still a lot you can do. The practice pedal is too thick. It sounds like cotton wool. It's a little bit too atmospheric. And so for many pianists, some people want that, but for many pianists, that's a bit too soft, right? When I recorded the music and wanted to try to promote it, I realized that there wasn't really opportunities for artists like that who were producing this felt music and releasing it with a label or sometimes self-releasing it. They didn't really have opportunities to perform. And so that was really a big part of what felt was. It was, of course, in my own self-interest to promote my music, but I really wanted to give a platform to other artists who were recording just felt because it's kind of obvious to me that people really connect with that reduced sound of the piano, which is really nice.
Yeah. I think it's it's beautiful to watch as well. I don't know. Again, I'm about to show how much I don't know about pianos, but usually they're not all open like that. Is that something that's normal, or was that custom to your setup here, or?
With the felt piano, you need to kind of open it. If you have the felts engaged and it wasn't open, it might loses a lot of the nuance. When I say nuance, it's the really literally the quietest sounds you can imagine. The hammers hitting the felts, the kind of mechanics of the piano. All of these are really important in the genre. In some ways, they're just as important as the notes. And so when you have the cover on the upright piano, you're losing a lot of that nuance.
Interesting. From the artists that have come to play here, what has been their take or like their response of the piano itself, of the felt room, of the felt? Do they all, I guess, are all the pianists who come here, are they usually playing on felt, or is that something that they seek out because of you guys?
I would say, first of all, the part of how artists come to us. We're super grateful for that because we are not actively, let's say, reaching out to artists. We are in that position because what we said earlier today, how this place was established and is still growing in this natural way. Also, naturally, people and artists, I would say, mainly Europe and not just Germany based, which is super nice.
We've also had some Canadians, some Australians, some Iranians.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
Very international.
So are people just hearing, like, are artists talking to each other? Or are they hearing about it on social media?
Question, yeah. We were a couple of our very good friends in the space are from Modern Classical Music magazine at Eduardo and David, and they were talking about it and their various self-organized tours and their visits around Europe. And Marius and I were really thrilled to hear that the name Felt Room was getting thrown around a bit, during these other performances.
Yeah,
I thought that was really encouraging for us. That meant that we were kind of on the right path. People were interested to come and play.
yeah.
And then really we've been kind of blessed and flooded with so many different applications, different artists.
And how do you go about evaluating? Because I remember last time I was here, you guys were talking about how you had like a lot of applications, like more than concerts than you can do in the upcoming months. And so how do you go about, like, you get an application, maybe it's someone you've heard of, maybe it's someone you haven't. How do you go through and decide, okay, who's right for this space?
Well, I think this is when we started to talk about the different brain or one brain, and what Rob and I bring to this one brain.
Yeah, two parts of one brain. I like it.
What we bring to this project is like a nice alchemy of skill sets. We taught ourselves or experienced. And before I invested time-wise and energy-wise into Feldroom, I was a manager at Tesla and setting up systems and processes for environmental management things.
Okay.
Of the factory here. Now shifting that skill set to art and to create a space where artists can play and you feel, you see how people get after a concert, how they facial expression change. This is like much more valuable for me now to create such spaces than to work in Excel files.
Yeah.
But I do agree the value of some systems in place.
Yeah.
And right at the start, when we, began in March, it was clear to me, and I suggested that to set up a system where we can easily see who's applying, which key information we want to have, like a press kit, how many followers on Spotify or other streaming platforms, to just make it easy for us to choose artists. And this is like the first, let's say, wave of how we collect data from artists that apply. And then the second stage is jumping on chemistry calls.
Okay.
That's how we call it. To really see, it's not just a fun name in the end, because chemistry call also means the audience members come to the place. I would say that's the feedback we get, not because of specific artists so much, but because of the vibe of the place and the atmosphere. So that's a crucial part in jumping on those calls and to talk with the artists, which we never skipped, which is like a tour. Because by doing that way, we can ensure that the quality, let's say, is like always ensured, and people who want to come to another Feldroom concert always can be assured, okay, how Rob and Marius picked the artists, it's a great night again. And I can bring friends, kind of
like a repeatable, good experience that, for every audience member.
Yeah, it's important that the artists fit the ethos of the space. It's calm, atmospheric, and on the most part, it's just piano. We've been experimenting a bit with some ambience behind it, electronics, but it can never be kick drums and drum machines.
Right.
That's kind of our rule. So, for example, there have been some artists who come through and maybe they want to use a bit more of a big atmospheric sound, but we always try to advise them that we would like that to be kind of remixed so that the big frequencies are kind of edited out and then a more ambient and gentle setting is in place. And because it's not my desire to suddenly fill this room with a lot of sound.
Right.
We need to, and then like, just as we were talking about with the front of the piano, if there's too much electronics, you can't hear the piano. And the piano is really the star. Having said that, we did also have a cankless player, Emilia, who's from Lithuania. This is like a Lithuanian folk instrument, and you sit it on your lap, and it's very like a harp.
Okay.
And that also beautifully fit into the space. Really fits this ethos of small sound, atmospheric sound, relaxing.
Very cool. I think, one of the things that I really liked when I was here the second time was, after the show, it was like, we were talking because I was asking you guys if you would do an episode of this podcast. And then also my friends were talking to the two artists who were here. And that one, I don't know, it had like a added element of fun to the show because the two of them for a few pieces actually played together. And it was just like, I don't know, it was like happy. It was like the two of them, they had been friends for a very long time and they were kind of like riffing off each other. And it was like at the end and it was just like a really fun way to end the show. And then actually getting to speak to them was also really, really nice. And so I like that, the space kind of goes beyond, like there's the beauty of the actual show and then also the experience you get after of like talking to the community.
Absolutely. And it's the reason why it's called Feldroom is because people can sit close to the piano and they can never be as close in a concert hall. So it's not called Feld Cathedral. Yeah. And the feedback we also get from people, let's say from the scene or more experience, like really experienced and let's say that played on bigger stages, they really like Feldroom because as an artist, you can also really talk. Yeah. And on normal classical piano stages, we played a concert and then that's it. And this interaction makes Verdroom it's a crucial part of why we're doing this, the communal thing. And also the other perspective from an audience member. I mean, you can ask questions, you can hang out after the concert. It's super nice.
Have there been any, I guess, call out situations where you've met someone at one of these concerts, then they became a friend, or whether that's an artist or an audience member, or I don't know, any specific story you can kind of think of off the top of your head?
Yeah, one of the artists, Vivian Rust, you mentioned him earlier. You were at his concert.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah, he and I have been since he applied to play. He and I have been talking a lot about where Feltroom could go in the future. He's also been giving me a bit of mentorship on my own music, my own releases. And I feel like Feltroom has really fostered a few of those friendships as well.
There was one Martin Rod who played here, and it was interesting because we were talking about music studios, and he has one the outskirts of Berlin in a nice old fabric house. And then he said, I have a nice coffee machine. And then we started talking, and now I'm working with him to finalize my album as a solo artist. So Feltroom is a nice hub or nucleus of where people meet actually.
She's great. Yeah, that was always our hopes as well.
Yeah.
Great.
I have a friend who's a musician who told me that when you are a musician, you have at least some sort of, maybe it's not your taste or your specific type of music, but like there's always a respect for good music in every genre. Do you think that that's true? And do you think that, I don't know, for example, the people who come to Feltroom, would they enjoy your personal music and your personal projects?
Good question.
How does that translate?
I mean, it's very subjective, isn't it? I think that people who come to Feltroom, they can be, hardcore meditators, and they're taking this opportunity to be in complete silence and go deep within themselves and to really think about what's going on in their lives. This kind of introspective thing. And then we'll also have, a couple who are going to go clubbing right after. And so it's really I would say the audience is on the whole spectrum. Yeah, everybody has phases in their musical journeys, right? I had a heavy metal phase when I was a kid. And,
Okay.
it changes.
Like a punk rock phase.
Yeah.
When I started making music. And now I could not imagine like 20 years ago to have like a piano.
So are you both then, I guess, open to your own music taste evolving in the future, or do you expect it to change a lot?
I also bought a Felt piano.
Okay.
There also was a connection over via Feltroom. So as the piano is standing there already, of course, I record in my home studio, and then the Felt sound gets into an indie pop song. And then the question is also, can you hear the small nuances of like a wood sound in a full production? Needs to be carved out, or I want to find my way. But this is great where the worlds are from the outside might be different worlds. It's music and it's connecting, not separating.
I'm curious to going from kind of tech and being like at a 9 to 5 kind of environment to then, you guys come together and you're like, okay, we're going to build this thing. At what point were you like, I get to quit my job? Or were you like, oh no, I can't quit, it's scary? Or what was kind of the thought process there?
I think though I decided to jump out of that routine and to leave my classical career also meant leaving behind my old life. And then once I did this choice or make that choice, plenty of possibilities opened up. And I think that was the leap of faith. And then I knew something will pop up, because when you reach at a relatively young age such a role, and I could travel also to the US and build up a team. I came here back at Ostkreuz after a long working day, and I said, this cannot be. This cannot be all.
In fact, I remember Marius coming to his piano lessons after a shift, and he'd be wearing a shirt and trousers. Sometimes never a tie though, right? But you were often wearing like a nice shirt and trousers.
Yeah.
He'd come from the office, and then when you left Tesla, your hair grew longer and you grew a beard. Like you were really into that sort of free mode that you got to after.
Yeah.
And it's really nice to think that Feltroom is kind of a product of that in a way. It was kind of waiting for you after you made that leap, and it's so connected with slowing down and getting away from your busy life. And Yeah, so just nice to hear that.
Yeah. Feldroom came at the right time. Yeah, it just was.
Yeah.
And I think that also comes from such choices. Once you put yourself out there, you will create something. Yeah, I'm super proud of that. Also here, when, let's say, we're planning the next concert season, it's not, let's say, it's a creative project now and everything is like super light and easy. It's also here discipline, and sometimes, we're doing that just the two of us, pre-concert, concert, after concert. And for example, after the concerts, we want to give the artists small clips that they can also use on Instagram to show, hey, they're playing live concerts. So that's why we also do that, to give them the opportunity to be more public. But that also means the way we run it now, the two of us, a lot of work involved, which necessarily doesn't mean we're not busy. We're quite busy with that. And it's also quite sometimes, how to say, you also get to points where, okay, it's maybe getting like a similar 9 to 5 thing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But it's so nice to work for our own project, like the biggest mind shift for our own project. And I didn't know that before so much. Then stepping into a train mornings and then having 12 meetings and then going back. But here you can really create something, and I'm happy to invest this time and energy to such a project. And I'm not in a 9 to 5 hamster wheel, but I can decide how to shift energies and to focus between art choice or editing videos. It's a different way of living a life.
I think that's like, yeah, really interesting because, yeah, even if something's your passion, like and it's yours and you're building it and you're excited about it, at the end of the day, like you still have to, I mean, from talking to a lot of Berlin-based business owners through this season of the podcast, I've realized it was a funny theme. A lot of them are like, I was like, what would you say to somebody trying to open a business in Berlin? And 3 of them said, don't. And I was like, that's crazy because they all have like quite successful operations, like on their own level, whether that's monetarily or like they've accomplished their goals and like they love what they do, but they were like, man, the bureaucracy is a nightmare. So I'm curious, like who of the two of you handles that and how does that go? And yeah, just like all the day to day, talk to the Ordnungsamt and talk to the.
Well, I guess Marius is the systems man.
Uh-huh.
And so he's advising me on how to go through that. We're still in this early process. And so nothing has been really formalized yet when it comes to, how the hierarchy of the company works and, what if we're a GbR or GmbH, whatever. But at the moment, it's just tied to my freelance work.
Okay.
Yeah. And so in future, planning on another successful year next year. And so maybe if we were getting another podcast at the end of next year, we'd have a different story to tell.
Yeah.
But right now it's really at the early stages.
But that's what I'm curious about, like at the early stages, like, I mean, because you have, like a brand name, it's Felt Room, like you have a sign outside, you have like a storefront location. You still had to, I assume, we're in Germany, register all of that and like go through all of like the processes of getting that on paper somewhere.
Do you want me to go through?
I mean, probably not in awful detail, but like, was it a lot of work to do all that?
No, actually, no, it's not. To be honest, it's not. I'm often, I'm in perpetual fear.
Yeah.
Like bureaucracy and
yeah.
This particular project, it's been not too bad.
Okay. All right.
Because I'm already registered freelancer. It's like a sort of additional, I guess there's the proper term for it, but you would say side hustle. As a freelancer, it's just another street form of income.
Okay.
So it just quite freely attaches onto my main 9 to 5, which is piano teaching.
Okay, interesting. Yeah, because to me, I think one of the biggest barriers for a lot of people who want to start their own thing is they're just like, I don't even know where to begin with, trying to figure that out.
I would also say though, you should seek advice from your tax accountant if you're going to do it. I guess that would be my one bit of advice if there was going to be somebody asking me about it.
I would also have just an advice and how we did it here. Instead of starting, okay, what needs to be done from a, let's say, bureaucracy side, I would say a lot of people are doing that from that and are a little bit intimidated or like pushed back because it's like this pile of work. But maybe if you focus more on actually what you want to do and the core idea, like focusing on Feldroom, and the other things, they will
They'll work themselves out.
Work themselves out. And today, as Rob said, it's going super smoothly. I just want to encourage people that maybe have an idea just to be curious and try it out and not be like pushed back by any German bureaucracy monsters, because it's really worth to do it.
Yeah. Do you feel like right now kind of where things are is it what you expected?
Scary German bureaucracy.
Scary German bureaucracy monsters. Yeah. Okay. So we don't let the German bureaucracy monsters get us down here. But I guess because, that makes sense though, that like, it started out with the piano lessons and then it kind of like layered on top of everything. So it wasn't like all at once, like you said, with the design, it was like piece by piece. It wasn't built up.
I think that's something that I've learned throughout my career, which is just that you have to do things first. And it's so easy to think your way or argue with yourself out of doing what you want to do, and to find excuses why you shouldn't. Some of those excuses are valid, but even if they are valid, it's good to just design. You need to do what you want to do, right? And it's rare to have an opportunity to do what you want to do. And so that's always how I've been in my career.
Yeah. I feel like figuring out what you want to do is the hardest part, and then trying, like actually doing it, like that's you can just go do it. But yeah, no, that's really cool. Were there any artists that like reached out that you guys were kind of like a little starstruck just because you are, involved in the space? Yeah.
When I was kind of approaching the space and I was observing the people who'd really become successful online with the streaming and with recording their own stuff and getting it out there, I was following Vivian's career quite closely, because he's done some incredible things. In fact, he just had, not to give him too big a promotion, but like he just returned from French Polynesia.
Okay.
As a pianist, and one thing that he did out there, I was so amazed by this that I thought it must be AI, but there was a raft with banana leaves straight over the top and a piano, and he's kind of drifting into the sunset on playing his music for the French Polynesian audiences.
Yeah. Okay.
And that's all through this genre, you could say.
Yeah.
It's incredible, because it does seem like quite a niche genre.
Yeah.
It is in many ways.
Interesting. I'm gonna have to look up that video.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
To your question, like starstruck, I think in March, where Rob told me about Vivian, I didn't know him at that time. Also because the music genre for me, also something I'm more and more getting into. Yeah. And getting to know new artists. But I remember when we bought chairs for Feldroom to accommodate more people in the audience, Rob was very excited that he was in contact with Vivian Roast. And at that time in March, and now we are at December, and he played here in October.
No, it was June. Yeah.
So see what happened between the time span of March and June.
Yeah.
Unimaginable, basically, that such a player like Vivian is coming to our place, and now he played here and is actually, as Rob said, kind of a good friend of the house, and also wants to help us, and like things like evolving also from that friendship now. Yeah. In a very short time frame where we could not have expected.
And I imagine it's like a lot of effort too to like do these shows, like kind of how we were talking about how it is work. Like you still have to, be here before it starts and then get everyone in, get everybody out, talk to people, organize, clean up. And so, yeah, like through that process, it is a lot of work to do each show. And so, obviously in the ideal world, you could be running shows like every night, but then like there's two of you, like what would kind of be that sweet spot between having a ton of shows versus, okay, it's too much, I just can't handle it?
We're actually discussing it a lot, and just for exactly the reasons that we're mentioning, which is that we have a lot of obligations. I have a 2-year-old son, and I also share this space with my partner Alex. She does couples counseling here, so we have to be very careful with the calendar and how that's going to work with childcare obligations. Marius also has his other obligations as well with his work, and we actually have come to the conclusion that 2 per month was a little bit much.
Okay.
And so we're experimenting with different concepts, and to spread them out to every 3 weeks. But we also are considering a matinee concert. So say, for example, one thing we're looking at now. And we're going to pull our WhatsApp group on this and see how they respond. But we were thinking every third Sunday, and there would be a matinee concert and an evening concert. And hopefully that would at the same time meet the demand, because we feel like our shows are selling out really fast, and so it would help meet that extra demand. But then at the same time, it would give us a bit of extra time between concerts for Marius and I to have some breathing space, because it's all the things that you mentioned.
Yeah.
I mean, the people, it's setting up the space, it's breaking everything down at the end of the night, it's washing the glasses, it's everything in the world of atoms. But in the world of bits, you've got the video editing, you've got the social media.
It looks like one show is, a couple hours, but like in reality, like that's like probably a 10 to 14 hour shift for you guys, like doing the whole, when all is said and done for each piece of it.
Hopefully then that will give us a bit more breathing space to think about how we can improve and keep delivering the same quality, and try to meet the demand at the same time.
Just to add on this, we talked about that yesterday, moving forward with the next season. Probably by that time the podcast comes out, we have already hopefully the schedule done, and just trying different formats. We started the first season with one concert per month. Then we could double that with the recent season. It's like 2 concerts per month. And now, we adjust some things here and there. Just try it out next year with a different format in interval. But the underlying fundament is always quality over quantity. So the more relaxed we are and not be let's say, self-created hamster wheel, which you could easily get. And you could also ask for people outside, say experts or business people, how you should run this place. But we talked about that yesterday, that the ones who knows best what's working for their place and where it's strategically going, to use that business term, because it's a entrepreneurial endeavor, what we're doing. We don't need like so much people from outside, because at the core is how we started the place with the idea and the ethos of Feldroom. And I think that's important, that quality is over quantity. And the more space we have to breathe, the better we can interact with artists. Also maintain is not the right word, to nourish our community. For example, we want to create a newsletter, which we just didn't have time, to be honest, to also publicate. But this is something we want to tap in more next year, when we have, let's say, a little bit more space between the concerts.
That makes sense. So I guess, from a business perspective though, do you guys set out like goals for the future of like, hey, we want to do this by the end of the year? Or do you kind of think about it more just like, hey, we have a good thing right now, like let's keep, just like doing what we're doing? Or kind of how do you plan for the future? Like how does that work in your mind?
I guess we're taking things one step at a time.
Yeah.
We're just trying to do the best job we can in the short to medium term. As I mentioned already, the demand for tickets and spaces and Feldroom concerts is pretty high.
Yeah.
And so we ask ourselves, if we were to take on a bigger space here in Berlin, what kind of capacity would that space be? What's the maximum number of people? We want to, at all costs, maintain this kind of intimate feeling in the room and the atmosphere and the coziness. But, if we were going to suddenly take on a 100 square meter place, it might kind of lose that.
Yeah.
And so probably not next year, but maybe 27, you could see us maybe in another space.
Okay.
I'd say. Then there's also, well, maybe I shouldn't say that. I shouldn't talk about it right now. But let's just say that there could be pop-ups in other cities next year.
Okay.
There's nothing set in stone yet.
No, but just general ideas. So like, things you have, like things that in your mind, you're like, oh, maybe we could explore that.
One thing actually today that we should mention as well is that as of today, which is the 12th of December, that's when we're recording, there's a release by Feldroom Recordings, which is our little release platform. So we're releasing music through Feldroom, and we're releasing an early song of mine, Glimmers, which was recorded on Felts a few years ago, through our platform. And so we're trying to kind of enter the online space a bit more, promote some playlists, and try to, without having a particular direction where we want to go, be in that space a bit more.
Yeah, that's amazing. Congratulations. So is that, again, forgive my ignorance, is that basically a record label though, or is that how does that work? It's
Yeah. Well, we don't really want to be known as a record label at this point. We want to be first and foremost a concert venue, but there might be possibilities in future to say, release live recordings. We're always recording everything here. So maybe in future there would be a point where we would realize that that would be a good way to go.
very cool.
Yeah, but becoming a record label is a serious thing, and that creates a lot more effort and a lot more responsibilities. And so we definitely don't want to be known as a label at this point.
It's
Very
more
cool.
like to see it, Feldroom as a live venue, and at the side the possibility of, the recordings we have here, maybe artists that played here. We also talked about the opportunity maybe to release something, let's say a wrap up of the artists that played here on this year, to have like, let's say, the opportunity to release songs from those artists who played here, and to put, let's say, also like very in the atom space again, put like a vinyl here, and people can, when they experience the Feldroom here, then maybe they can buy a vinyl which is maybe not on electronic platforms even, or DSPs. Things we think about, but again, and that's the link to what we talked about before. The more space we have during concerts, we can think about those things more instead of jumping to a concert. Sometimes we had like a concert after another concert directly, like in 1 week, and it's like too crowded.
Yeah.
With a team of 2 people, even though you have support from your family, let's say, it's too. It must be fun also for us, right?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, quality and fun.
It sounds like you're having fun though, overall.
Yeah. It's just great to be in the audience for one of these concerts and to see people engrossed in this music and to be quite like visibly affected by what they're experiencing. And we've had such good feedback from everybody, and that makes it fun.
Yeah. No, every person that I've told to come here has been like just raving about it. Yeah. I mean, I think something that I know I personally try to do more is that if I like something or like I meet someone that I'm like, oh, I like you. Like I just say, like, I like you. I like you. I like this thing. I like what you're doing. It's really cool. Because I feel like worst case scenario, somebody's just like, that was a bit much. But I mean, best case scenario, they're like, oh, this person actually likes, what I'm doing. But I say that because I know personally, like I have a lot of friends who I've recommended come to one of these shows. They've been. I know 100% they're not the type of people who would have like talked to you afterwards, but like, they did mention to me, like, this is such a cool space. And so, yeah, I hope that I'm sure it's only a fraction of the positive feedback you should be getting that you're actually hearing, but it's just it's just a really it's a special space. I could just gush about it, but okay, well, we'll wrap it up. Yeah, I was gonna laugh. I was like, is that someone coming to scan your QR code? Okay, well, then I think that is a perfect wrap up as you transition back into teaching mode. But was there anything else that you wanted to touch on or message?
Yeah, just anybody who wants to come to a concert, join the WhatsApp group. If you go onto our Instagram, there's a link tree there. Go onto the WhatsApp group. That's where you can get up to the minute information about concerts. And then hopefully you won't get disappointed if the concerts are sold out. And to any guest artists who want to apply with us, there is a guest application form on the link tree. If you just scroll all the way to the bottom past the concerts, there's the guest artist application form. And we're looking forward to hearing from you. Keep doing.
No, thank you both. This was a privilege.